Good morning, my friend. Welcome to the fourth hour. Denise, I think you're the first one here every morning. I mean, as soon as I'm live, boom, there's Denise every morning. I appreciate that. Thank you, my friend. It's great to have you along. Okay, it's kind of a new day, isn't it? I mean, just a sense of optimism. When was the last time you were this optimistic about how things were going? Seriously, it's been several years. I mean, since I was really as optimistic as I find myself right now, and Donald Trump is out there and he is doing more. Day one of Steve says he's a little bored watching the Elise Stefanik hearing on. Why? What's going on, Steve? The is nothing coming out, or is it just kind of going through the more motions as they take a look? Marco Rubio this morning was officially sworn in. So he is the first Donald Trump's choice for Secretary of State. So Marco Rubio was sworn in earlier this morning. Yeah, I don't think I'm too surprised by that, Steve. A lot of flapping of guns, he says, of gums. So David is back from Kentucky and Oklahoma. So good morning, my friend. It's nice to have you back. Welcome to all of you. And I've noticed greater numbers here recently. So I think there really is a spirit of optimism that's out there that many of us are feeling. So what is Donald Trump up to today? Carolyn Levitt was on Fox and Friends this morning, and she teased a massive infrastructure announcement coming from Donald Trump. This will be later today. I think, 4 p.m. So 3 p.m. this afternoon that we will learn. So Trump will be holding an event 3 p.m. Central Time this afternoon. The initiative does not relate to the wildfires in California because Trump already signed executive orders about those. So she's teasing it. That's really kind of all we know at this point. So Donald Trump making another massive announcement coming up a little bit later this afternoon. So we'll be watching for that. Steve is saying here, and I appreciate your comments. Feel free to leave comments as to what's ever on your mind, because I try to keep my eye on those, and if they're worthwhile, I'm going to circle back. And I don't mean that to be denigrating, because sometimes, unfortunately, there are some comments that I do not see until after I'm done. So done with the fourth hour, and then I see, for instance, I think it was Edgy yesterday, and I'm like, oh, I wish I had seen that earlier. I would have pointed that out. So please leave your comments, and if I spot them, I'm going to point them out. Steve said, I'm happy with the suspension of foreign aid, and that federal workers have to come back to the office. Absolutely agree about that. The federal workers, the Department of Government Efficiency, and I talked about this on the air this morning, being sued already. So, and you knew this was going to happen. David, see, I agree with you. That's what the 14th Amendment was all about. And I talked about that on detail on the air. Birthright citizenship was for the children of slaves, that they had been brought to the United States and that they should be seen as citizens of the country. That's where the 14th Amendment came from. So I suspect we're going to see battles over that one. Whether the question right now, I think, is whether Donald Trump actually can do that via an executive order. But I am like, you know what? Well, let's find out. I have no problem with that. I have no problem with Donald Trump using the executive orders in that way, if it's going to bring some of these things then to lawsuits and courts and determine, okay, well, we've got to take another path on some of these things, and let's open the door then for Congress to be able to do that, or for states to be able to do that, if that's the case. So It'll be very, very interesting to see. Kyle is saying here, the major infrastructure announcement, could that be starting up the Keystone pipeline again? Let's hope. Kyle says it'll be interesting to see as to, again, some of the things that were done during the Biden administration really made it difficult when it came to energy. And Donald Trump clearly wants to blow away those restrictions and be able to move forward. There's another story. This is from the New York Post. The Post is one of the sources that I check on a fairly frequent basis, not only for the morning show, but beyond. But Trump announcing the purge of over 1,000 Biden appointees. You're fired. Let's see what is going on here. Official notice of dismissal to 4 Biden appointees, and he did this via social media, saying that his team were hunting down even more to throw out of office. Our first day in the White House is not over yet. My presidential personnel office is actively in the process of identifying and removing over 1,000 presidential appointees from the previous administration who are not aligned with our vision to make America great again. Let this serve as official notice of dismissal for these 4 individuals, with many more coming soon. So you can find that story. And then he said, you're fired, which is kind of his trademark catch line from The Apprentice. So among the first to be booted was Mark Milley, who was given a preemptive pardon by Biden from the National Infrastructure Advisory Council. So it's interesting to watch what will be taking place, and I suspect we'll have more details on that. Steve is saying here, I hate executive orders. They're overused, used for things that were never intended. If they move things to the courts or the legislature, then they're useful. And that's kind of what I was just saying. I agree with you, I think, Steve. If it moves things, I'm okay with executive orders. They're used more and more. And they are sometimes used in order to get things done that the legislature would never have moved forward. And I don't know that I support those things. Generally speaking, I would rather that, as Steve is saying here, that we go through the legislature, or go through the courts and move that way. Problem is, you've got some of these leftists who are clogging up all of those institutions. I mean, take a look at what's going on in Congress and their reaction to some of these things. And there you go. I mean, they're when it comes to removing, I think, obstacles that have been in our way, I am much more inclined to support those kinds of executive orders. And that's what we saw coming yesterday from Donald Trump. He was getting government out of the way. He was getting these things out of the way, restoring freedom. If it comes to the restoration of freedom, I'm very much in favor of those things, of individual freedom, because we got plenty of laws. We've got plenty of laws governing our actions. So, I don't think you and I have to worry about what's going to happen moving forward. The more we get the government out of the way, I think, and this is why, and we talked about this a little bit, Shannon is saying, 14th Amendment is clear, doesn't have a slavery qualifier. But take a look at the reason why it was passed. Why was the 14th Amendment passed? Take a look at that. No, it doesn't have a qualifier. But why was it passed? It was passed back in the 1800s. So these are the things that are going to slow that down. Clearly, what was the intent? And the courts look at that, and the Supreme Court will look at that. The courts look at what was the intent of lawmakers when they passed the 14th Amendment. That's something the courts will consider. So you're right, it's not in the verbiage of the 14th Amendment, but what was the intention of lawmakers when they passed it? That's something courts have routinely looked at. So will it wind back up to the courts? I think it will. I don't think Donald Trump has got the ability to just be able to do that. But clearly are we seeing the 14th Amendment being used in a way as was originally intended? I think you'd have a really hell of a hard time saying, yeah, it is. That's the way it was originally intended, and that's what we're doing. Yeah, I don't think so. When we open up the southern border and we just got people flooding into the country, flocking into the nation, as the Biden administration was doing, that was not what the 14th Amendment was designed to do. So it'll be interesting, but again, expect a lot of court challenges as we move forward. There was one other piece. I have a hard time passing up lip readers. So what was Barack Obama saying to George W. Bush at Trump's inauguration? Apparently, Obama, according to a lip reader, this is a deaf woman who lip reads. How can we stop what's happening? So this is what she believes Obama was saying to George W. Bush. And George W. Bush said, smiles, reacting to it. How can we stop what's happening? Was it a joke? Is that actually what he said? I have absolutely no idea. But this is a story from the New York Post employing, and I think this may have come from social media. She is a deaf woman who shares her interpretations of celebrities and politicians' private conversations on social media. She made a video that has now gone viral as to what the two may have been discussing. How can we stop what's happening? Which makes me laugh as to whether or not that's actually what was said. I have, and Steve, I'm kind of like you. I don't, Steve is saying, forgive me for not believing these lip readers. I totally agree. I have seen some of it. It's like, what? I mean, it's some of this stuff is just a bit of a stretch. As we were talking about the 14th Amendment, and I agree with Steve, I think it will likely end up in front of the U.S. Supreme Court. So where they will go, what will happen, I think that will wind up happening. I wonder if what part of what Donald Trump is trying to do is slow things down. Slow down the left. I'm very much in favor of that. Anything that we can do to slow things down for the left. And that's what I think why they have got to be just gnashing their teeth today. And it puts a smile on my face, honestly. I mean, seeing them frustrated, seeing them within minutes of Donald Trump signing an executive order, lawsuits being filed. I love seeing that, Nick, because they got no other recourse. That's the only recourse they've got right now is to go to the courts. And I love seeing it. So it's, again, Democrats, and there's a lot of gnashing of teeth, not only from the Democrats, but also from some of these, I think, liberal Republicans. There are a number of them in Congress, and I get frustrated by them. I'm not going to name them by name, but I know who they are. And they're frustrated at some of these things Donald Trump is doing. And you know what? I take a lot of joy from that. I really do. I take a lot of joy from seeing them being frustrated by the things that they would like to see, and um, it's pretty crazy. So who is screaming victim, Melissa? Melissa says now they're screaming victim. I'm curious about that comment. We're trying to go back through and see where this is coming from. But Melissa's saying often laws passed with good intent are abused. The spirit of the law is spoiled by the leftist who abuses it by using the letter of the law, she's saying. And I think some of that is absolutely true. So Melissa is saying this is her reaction to the liberals suing. Yeah, I think it's funny. It's the only recourse they've got. What else can they do? Democrats don't control the House. They don't control the Senate. They don't control the presidency. What else can they do? And then for those who are on even further left than the Democrats, which is pretty hard, it's possible, but it's pretty darn hard to be left of the Democrats. But George Soros certainly is. Let him spend his money and pull his hair out, what's remaining, over what Donald Trump is doing. I love it. I mean, today is a bright day. And I was really struck by the number of people even yesterday, Donald Trump being sworn in, and the number of people who were saying on my Facebook, who were saying, I'll believe it when I see it. I'll believe it when Joe Biden is actually gone. And, they were right to a degree, because his parting shot, the final minutes of his presidency, pardoning his family. I'm still a little, again, I'm not surprised by that, but that guy infuriated me repeatedly throughout his presidency with the actions that he was taking. And I guess it's fitting that is the note that he ends his presidency on. I'm going to check Fox News here while we're chatting here. So yeah, converse amongst yourselves here for a moment. Jonathan Turley, I noticed, was on Fox News Channel as I was on the air this morning. And I was wondering if they had put together any video of, I'm not seeing anything. Be interesting to see what he's saying. Maybe they'll put something together later today, and we can touch on that tomorrow, because Jonathan Turley was reacting to some of these last-minute maneuvers, and I suspect he may have a piece at the New York Post. He is a regular columnist at the New York Post, so I'll be watching for something, because he's one of those people that really intrigued me. He's got a different point of view from me. First of all, he's got a legal perspective that is almost second to none, I think. Jonathan Turley does. He is more of a libertarian than I am, versus, I'm a Republican and very proud of being a Republican. Turley is more of a libertarian, but when it comes to issues of the law, I think his opinion is second to none. Folks like him, Alan Dershowitz is another one. I respect their legal minds and their legal opinions and their legal analysis of some of the things that are going on. So Biden and these last-minute pardons for his family, I think, really have set a lot of us off. And a lot of us are concerned about the precedent that Joe Biden set. But what else is new? I mean, is that not typical of that whole train wreck of his administration? Just leaves a bad taste in everybody's mouth all the way around. Let's leave it there for today. Thanks so much for letting me join you. I appreciate it as always. Thank you, my friends, for being here. Hit that like button before you go, and I hope to see you again tomorrow. Take care, my friend. Have a great day, and I hope, may God bless.